What you're going to be doing today is adding some rounded corners to an element, and also you're going to learn how to add multiple objects, multiple images inside of a div. Like the hero image is just one image. You're going to learn how to add multiple images, and I'm going to kind of just go through this. First, rounded corners. It's pretty easy. The rounded corners element defines the radius of a corner. Right here, this is a 25 pixel radius. A smaller radius, 10 pixel, will be a lot smaller than that round here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So when you hit the run button underneath this section here, this is what the real-time code looks like. And here is the name of the div right here, number rounded corners 1. And I'm sorry, not the div, the ID. So the ID down here, rounded corners 1, in the side, and basically just inside of a p tag or a paragraph tag. So you've got the p ID equals r corners 1, which is right here. The pound sign indicates an ID, and then after that tag you have text inside of the p tag, and they all say the same thing, rounded corners, and then underneath it, outside of that ID, is just some random text here. So what I'm going to do, that explains r corners 3, r corners 2, r corners 1. They're essentially all the same exact thing in terms of shape and radius of the corners, but they're slightly different. This one uses an image. This one simply uses a border, and this one is just a background. So I can change this background here and show you, and I'll just change the background to purple and click run. And then the border radius here, like I said before, is the rounded corners. So if I change that to 15, it's going to get smaller. And if I change that to larger, it's going to get bigger. But 25 is pretty good number here. All right. The padding is 20 pixels. That's around the paragraph element here. If I changed it to, let's say, 50, you'll see what that changes. So it just gets bigger. The size of this box here is 200 pixels, 150 pixels added on top of the 50 pixel padding. So if you change this back to what it was, I believe it was 20 pixels. Let's see, 25 pixels it says down there. So no, padding is 20, that's right. All right, and if you were to change the width to, let's say, 100, it would look like this. All right, it's pretty easy, pretty basic. It's just rounded corners there, and inside of a p tag, you're defining what it looks like. So let's add a BR in here, and then more text, and then see what that change does. Okay, that's about it. Now we're going to move on to this right here. This section right here is where you add multiple values to the radiuses of the corners, and I believe that's right here. So you do that. It's the same, looks the same exact thing as this, except the sizes are defined. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, like we've done with different elements in the past. It starts on the upper left and works its way around. So you see that 5 pixels is the smallest, and if I were to go over here and change this, they're not divided by commas or anything. So if I were to do this, let's say 25 pix, 35 pix, 15 pix, 5 pix, we'll see the change. Okay, that's pretty basic, pretty easy to understand, and I believe that is all we're learning from this section here. And then getting into the meat and taters of the CSS background. Here is a background div with multiple images. So you have one small paper image that is about this size here, and it's being repeated over and over with a PNG right here. So it's actually a GIF of a PNG. So when I go in here to run this, you'll see it's defined as a GIF file type and not a PNG, but you'll use a PNG. All right, so to explain what this is here, you've got this section right here inside of this div, example 1. So this is all defined right up here in the style. Again, for people that are just adding their style inside of the HTML document, that's fine. It's right here. Or if you are creating a separate style sheet, you put this in the CSS style sheet, copy and paste that in there. So this is this whole div right here. After this URL in parentheses, you have the file type or the file name of this picture here. So the flower comes first and the paper comes second. And this works kind of like Photoshop. If you haven't had Photoshop, I'll show you. The image that is first is the one that's on top, and then the next one is the one that's underneath that. If you're going to have 15 images and you wanted this picture to be in the background, this URL would be at the very end of all those pictures. So if I were to, let's add this picture again here. Actually, let's just switch the order here if my computer doesn't freeze up and die. Okay. Now I'm going to copy and paste this after the image. So this GIF, this paper texture background, is going to be first, and then the flower image is going to be after it. But you're not going to be able to see it because the computer has this image on repeat. So I'll show you here. You can't see the image, this right here, the flower image. It's there, but you can't see it because it's being covered up. Now if I change this to no repeat, you'll see how small this paper texture actually is. And it's being told to start from the left bottom corner. Let's change it to the left top corner. Come on. My computer froze. Okay. I can't spell. Left top, left top. So we have two images, left top. Let's run it. All right, so this one happens first. If I were to reverse the order, you would see that this image would appear first, therefore on top of the paper texture. Let's move the paper texture. Let's move the flower texture to the flower texture is second. So this background position is affecting this. Let's change this to let's say left bottom, and run it, and it'll pop up down here at the bottom of the div. And the padding of the div is 15, so 15 pixels beyond this, let's say the header and the paragraph, these two p tags here. Let's change the header, the padding to 25, and you'll see these pictures start to move away from each other. All right, now we'll change that back to what it was at 15, and I'm going to move this flower picture to the right bottom. All right, and let's move this underneath. So we'll move this after the flower, so it will appear behind the flower. And now it's going to be repeated, so I'm going to change this from no repeat. The second background repeat property is changing this second file here. So if I run it, you have a repeat, and the flower image has now been moved to the top left because it's the first. So let's do this. I'm going to copy this and add it to each corner. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I'm going to have this say left top, and it's going to be right top, and then left bottom, and right bottom. And then the last position is of the paper texture here. It doesn't really matter where that is. Let's just change it to left bottom. since it's being repeated in the background, you're not going to be able to tell where it's been moved to. So, and then I also have to change the background repeat to, let's say, 3 of these so they're not being repeated. So repeat, no repeat, no repeat, and let's run that. And now you have an image on 4 corners here. Let's say top center. Let's see what this does. This probably does nothing. Okay, that's not true. It does. So bottom center would be down here too. So I'm just going to change that back to left top. And now if I run this, you'll see these images are just folding over top of each other. So what I'm going to do is resize them here. And you can do that with this tag right here. So I'm going to add a background size inside of this. And that appears, let's see, I guess it doesn't matter, after the background. So I'm just going to pop it in here after this. And again, this right here, if I were to put this, I think it would control everything. So what I want to do is make sure that I separate these attribute or these property values with a comma. Let's say, and I account for everything except for, do I need to account for the last one? Let's see what I did over here. Auto. The last one's just going to be auto. So it's just defined by the automatic size that it is. If I were to change this right here to say, let's say 99 pics, it's going to blow this picture up, and you can't even really tell. But look at how textured that is. I'm going to change it to 9 pixels, and we'll see how small it gets. So auto is just going to use the automatic size that the file is and use that so for future reference. So what I'm going to do is try and see what, let's do 10 pics for each. So 10 pics and a comma and auto for the last one. I'm going to paste this 3 times. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then auto, and let's see what happens. And they are super tiny. You can't even probably see them. So what I'll do is change this to 100 pixels, and let's see how big they get. They're probably going to become huge. Oh, okay. So that's how you would do this. That is essentially, in some other directions, your lesson for this module. All right.